The next question, really directly to Jim, related to what sort of guarantees OEMs and CEMs can expect from the supply chain when they run into difficulties in terms of sourcing particular component type. So, yeah, Jim, specifically.
It's a really important question when dealing with, and there is a distinction between brokers and independents. Brokers sit in a house less than the size of our meeting room here with 3 or 4 people. And if you're dealing with one of the large independents like America 2, we have a little over $1 billion in inventory, mostly customer consigned, and 350,000 square foot of warehousing. So it really has to do with picking the partner. And if the infrastructure and the commitment to quality is there from the independent distributor, they will not be afraid to give you guarantees. America 2 has a 10-year guarantee that we will take back any part and refund, take the part back and refund it up to 10 years. Now, we all know that for most cases, that's not going to happen because it passes infant mortality and burn-in. But it really is just a way of us saying we have confidence in our selection process and our inspection process. If there is a problem, if you're dealing with a broker or an independent, they may tell you they have general liability insurance. Well, as it turns out, general liability insurance does not cover rework. It covers accidents, it covers injury. America 2 carries an error and omission policy for $10 million. It covers rework, it covers labor, it covers all the part of the board if the board happens to burn up. We've had the policy in place at $10 million for 5 years, and I'm happy to say we've never had to make a claim against the policy. So it goes back to the same thing as having a robust selection process for your independent of choice.
Hi, thanks for that, Jim. The next question really relates to some advice that you guys can offer OEMs and CEMs in terms of how they can structure their internal processes. How they can structure their internal processes to kind of dovetail and complement the services that they can purchase externally. So, yeah, Mark.
I would say if you're looking at it as a distributor, I would say that you need to dedicate resources to counteract the problem. You can develop good supply chains. You can manage your suppliers correctly. You may be working with suppliers that may be green qualified suppliers for years. You trust that company, but you don't know the company that they're sourcing from. So the advice would be really developing a secure supply chain, at least a supply chain management model, where you're managing your suppliers. You have a selection criteria for those suppliers, and then you're going to be willing to dedicate the resources required to validate that the product being received is acceptable. Again, even from secure sources, there have been instances of counterfeit devices sneaking in. So as an independent, I think you need to be prepared for the fact that there are going to be quality control costs that you'll need to incur. If you're looking at it from a purchasing perspective, for a contract manufacturer and OEM, selection of an independent distributor would be a company, again, that is willing and is committed to devoting the resources in terms of the commitment of developing a supplier management policy and strategy, as well as the commitment of resources to identify counterfeit components prior to shipment. The quality control method needs to be in place. So that would be the first steps that I would take as a recommendation.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, Jim.
As a follow-up, again, I would say know your supply chain. Have a couple trusted independents. As the Pepsi and Coke of the franchise distribution model have absorbed other companies, there's less and less choices. So when you're choosing, make sure that you go through a selection process. One of my points of advice would be don't deal with a broker or an independent if you haven't done a physical audit of their facility. It may seem like an expensive proposition to audit their facility. Have somebody from material management and somebody from your quality team. It may seem expensive, but if a part gets in a board and gets in an end product, it can cost hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. So make sure you do a physical audit. And America 2 welcomes everybody to come to the Florida facility, see the test house, audit the procedures. Have a quality plan. Once you choose, have a quality plan where the independent agrees to how you want things inspected. It's not like buying directly from a Motorola and an Intel where all you're looking at is a label and a quantity. Parts have been out there, possibly on an EMS shelf. You don't know what the humidity control, there's a lot of issues that can happen. So picking your proper partner that can vet the entire history of the part, including moisture exposure, including solderability testing if the date codes are older than 2 years. All those things can be done at a test house, whether it's an external test house like Mark's or an internal test house in America too. The last thing I would say is, and if you leave me your card afterwards, I can send you this website. The U.S. government put out a pretty thick book on counterfeiting in January of this year in the electronics market. And it's very interesting because it identifies as, without any bias, that counterfeits are a problem in almost every part of the supply chain. Sometimes in franchise distribution, sometimes even from the original manufacturer, because all of these people take back product. In the independent channel, we've had to develop incredible inspection systems because we're used to buying where we don't know the origin of the part. If parts come back to franchise or even the original equipment manufacturer, it's part number and label and back in stock in many cases. If the ASPs are high, they may be retested. But for the most part, now it's a small problem, but it is identified in this report. So I would say, if you really want to get your arms around it, read the report. It's pretty interesting. There's some really good advice in there. And I'd be happy to talk to anybody after the meeting about that.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Jim.
Sorry, if I may, I'm just going to add one thing that I'm sorry, I've forgotten to mention it before. There are resources available to you that are public access information where suspect suppliers and suspect part numbers are being published. So there are resources available where you can go online and find information for if you're sourcing a component. Is that component itself been identified in the past, in the recent history, as a highly suspect part? Same with those suppliers. So there are resources available for you to help double check these things without having to do it entirely out of your own resource. It's just a matter of time of looking it up.